When we bought Tangaroa, it came with a Watermaker, a system that claimed it could make 1,000 gallons a day. The problem? It didn't work. For our first year on board, we focused on heat and power instead, leaving the Watermaker untouched. In 2022, Blaine took on the challenge of rebuilding it from the ground up. Think outdated parts, head injury, copper piping, and even a surprise drill chuck. Was he able to transform this old system into something reliable enough to keep us off grid? Stick around to see the rebuild and what it looks like today.
When we first moved on board Tangaroa, we had to tackle the most important items like the electricity, the heating, things like that. Once those were out of the way, we could tackle the want-to-haves, and one of those was the Watermaker on board Tangaroa. We had a Watermaker incorporated. Watermaker is supposed to handle about 1,000 gallons a day. We hold 1,400 gallons on board, which for the first little bit, we would just go into the dock to fill up with water. But that's a little bit inconvenient, and if you want to live truly off-grid, we had to get that Watermaker working. Today I'm spending the day trying to get the Watermaker reorganized. It was mounted on a panel here. I've already started to remove things, but basically what I had was those control panels down there were mounted along this kind of funny hinged board, just really kind of gross. So I've started to remove it all, and I'm going to be replumbing everything, but you can see the mess of plumbing and everything else back here that I've got to sort out. And I figured getting this piece of wood out of the way would give me access to all the wiring that's got to get removed back here in the back, make things a little bit easier on that front as well. It's always fun, the things you find when you're digging into places of the boat that haven't been accessed in a while. When you're out in the water, there are sometimes things that you have to do to make things happen. And this drill chuck was involved in one of those things. Apparently it is the perfect size to plug this hose, and it has obviously been there for many moons. When I dug into the Watermaker, it was a mess. For starters, everything was everywhere. The control panel was forward in the engine room, the valves were forward, the high pressure pump was all the way at the back of the engine room with the membranes, the low pressure feed pump was in the middle of the engine room, so everything was just all over to start, which drives me up the wall. Not only that, all the hoses were old and leaking, all the seals were leaking, the high pressure pump was leaking. I mean, everywhere. There were cracks in the membranes were hooped. I mean, there was not a lot that was functional in this system. So I knew I was going to have to do a fairly substantial amount of work to get this working the way I wanted it to be. For starters, I had to condense it all. I had to get it all down into the same location. I didn't want things everywhere. So to do that, I decided to move it to the front right corner of the engine room. Have everything, there was already some filters there for our freshwater system, which are also getting redone. So it just fit. I call that my water wall up front. That's where everything is. That's where all my valving is, filters, pumps, you name it. The controls for the Watermaker, they're all right there. So it makes it nice and easy. What I'm doing today is I've got a high pressure pump for the Watermaker system. And before it was mounted kind of over where the battery bank is over there. And unfortunately, some of the deck still leaks in places. So I tend to try to avoid placing things on the outside edges of the boat if they're not properly covered by something. Anyhow, long story short, we decided to move it. It's going up to the front of the engine room up here. The plumbing's going to be a lot shorter. We're going to remount the control panels. So what I've done is I've started to make, well, I'm mostly finished making a platform for the pump to sit on. So I'm just going back right now, and some of these screws that I used to hold it in place while I made it, I'm increasing the size of just to give it a good solid platform. It's a pretty heavy pump, so I gotta make it a little bit beefier. So I've got everything tied into the main braces on the panel here that holds the fuel tanks and everything else. So I got the membranes out on the aft deck here, or the vessels out here on the aft deck. I'm just pulling out the membranes just to A, make sure there are membranes in there, and B, getting a measurement of the size of them. So that's what we got there. So I've just got to find a a couple of replacements for those, and then some plumbing, and hopefully get the Watermaker back up and running again. Oh, these membranes are cock.
Or what?
I just did that for
Oh, cock! I'm like, what are you talking about? KOC.
See what I did there? Yeah, anyway. Missed a little bit here. I had Josh come in and help me quickly to get this pump over here, because as you can see, it's pretty big and it's quite heavy. So hopefully I can get this up here without hurting myself, which I'm so prone to happen. I want the pump hanging off the end by a little bit. That way, if it develops any leaks on the wet side, it'll leak down into the bilge rather than on top of the plate that it's mounted. So it'll hopefully keep it from corroding the plate here. All right, as you see here, I've cleaned up the wall. I've repainted the wall. Looks a lot better than it did before. Now I'm just mounting everything on this wall. So we've got a 3-stage or 4-stage, I guess, filtration system. So we'll have 2 coarse media elements, and then we'll have a carbon element. And then this is a UV sterilizer tube. It's a little bit overkill, but I got a great deal on it from a buddy. He had one that he was getting rid of. So we're going to use it. It's a fairly mild power draw, so no worries there. Then the Watermaker stuff is going to get up here. I've got the main electrical panel mounted already, and I'll have the valving panel right next to it here. And that way my entire water system will be in this area right here. My pumps are directly below my feet. I've got all my filters, I got my Watermaker, so this will be fantastic. The high pressure pump for the Watermaker is underneath the washer and dryer here. So it's a fairly compact, closed-in area, and fits everything really well. Trying to help you get your foot situated.
Oh, I'm okay.
Okay.
Ah! Okay. It's very graceful.
We're gonna have to make this quick.
Okay, what are we doing?
I've already got a hole through partially here. I need you to hold the tender in for me so I can push against the boat.
Okay, go. My paint job.
What's that?
There goes my paint job.
Yeah.
Faster with a fiberglass boat. I don't think they recommend, putting holes in your boat while you're in the water.
No. I gotta go grab my sandpaper. Ferry's coming out. We might rock a little bit.
I don't think we're gonna rock that much. I'll put my finger in it if it does. I'll just do like it's bigger than my finger.
I do, and I've got 40 grit to
wreck my paint job.
To wreck your paint job.
Bastard. Here comes the ferry wake.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, look at my beautiful red paint.
It's gonna all be covered.
Sorry, I'll hold this to it.
It's good enough.
And in case you're wondering what this through haul is for, I really don't know.
The Watermaker.
The Watermaker, yes, that's what's Watermaker weekend.
This is the brine output.
The brine output. And watch, he's going to get it all over him because no one, and I mean no one, can use 5200 without getting it all over them. There's just something about it. You use it, it gets all over you. It's just a mess. Can you break the 5200 cycle? And some people say, why are you using 5200 on a boat? You'll never get the through hull off.
That's the point.
It's an aluminum boat. We can wrench on it as much as we want. Maybe on a fiberglass boat, I might not use 5200. What do you think?
Because it could actually rip the entire upper layer of fiberglass off.
Yes, it could. But on an aluminum boat?
But you're not going to do that with the aluminum.
No. That's why we have an aluminum boat.
And I will take permanent over leaking any day.
I like permanent over leaking. Leaking is no fun.
to the paneling here. I've started to drill holes for motor mounts and such for the new motor. Now, one of the, I guess this is so heavy up on the pump side, they actually put a mount up here, and what was on here before was this piece of wood. And I mean, wood is all right. I mean, it's good for vibration absorptions, things like that. It's easy to work with. The only problem with wood is it absorbs water. That's a big problem when you're using it on an aluminum boat and it's sitting against aluminum, because what you end up with is moisture against the aluminum for really long periods of time, which will severely start to corrode the aluminum. So one thing that I kind of like using, it's a product called King Starboard. I can't remember the exact scientific type of material it is, HTPE plastic or something like that. It's just a high density plastic. It's fairly strong. You can thread it. You can use it for brackets. I use it for mounting sea strainers and such as well. It's basically a lot like working with wood, except it doesn't absorb moisture like wood does. So typically you can have it right up against aluminum, and short of what might get trapped between the aluminum and the plastic, which will probably eventually dry out, it doesn't sit there damp all the time. Like I said, when I'm mounting sea strainers to the aluminum stringers and such, it's really handy. I'll show you what I did with the raw water strainer for the generator, because I had to obviously put in a fresh one of those. So when I installed it, which is that guy there, so you can see down in here, that's the sea strainer for the gen set there, and as you can see, it's mounted on a piece of starboard. So I can thread from the backside into the aluminum stringer here. So as you can see, I've got to replace these. I've got to get some longer bolts, but for now they'll work. But yeah, you can thread through a counterboard into the starboard, and then you can actually do the same for the other side. And then you've got a nice isolation there between the bronze sea strainer and the aluminum, which, if you can see here, that's where the old sea strainer was mounted, and the bronze was mounted directly to the aluminum hull, which does not do pretty things when you keep it damp with moisture. So definitely a firm believer in the starboard stuff. It works great. It's a great isolator, and that's what I'll be using to hold the weight on the front of the pump. I've got it mounted up on the wall there. Membranes are down low down there. And what I've started to do here is get everything basically redone. Some of the end caps were in pretty rough shape. These are actually okay, but the other two were not good. So I decided to go ahead and get some new end caps from the manufacturer. As you can see, these are in fantastic shape, and it looks like they went from a single O-ring to a dual O-ring configuration, which is pretty nice. So hopefully that'll solve any issues that they might have found over the years for leakage. So I've got to transfer all these other fittings over to the new end caps. Also got all new O-rings for everything. Just working on getting the filter housings all cleaned up and filters replaced in those as well. And they'll mount over in the corner in front of the high pressure pump there. So hopefully we'll have Watermaker running this weekend. That's my goal anyway. So we'll keep you guys posted. But otherwise, new maintenance components, always good. So before I told you that I had the water wall. Well, let me tell you the things that are on the water wall other than the Watermaker. We've got a filtration system. It's a pretty skookum setup. It's made with 3 filters in series, so it does a 20 micron, a 5 micron, and then it's got a charcoal filter after that for removing all the other stuff. And then from there it goes up to a big honkin' UV sterilizer. So what it does is it's got a big UV bulb in there, and it uses UV light to kill nasties in the water, bugs, you name it. Now, A lot of that stuff was there. A lot of it wasn't connected though, and there were once again leaks everywhere. So that had to be that had to be tackled and fixed. Another big issue is a lot of the water piping inside the boat was copper. There were some other pipes that weren't. They were plastic, but I believe they were poly B, and that stuff's just not good. It will crack over time. You'll have leaks. So all that had to be replaced as well. And if you guys have watched my older videos, you know how I feel about copper on board an aluminum boat. It doesn't need to be there. So all the copper went, all the original plastic went, and the whole system was rebuilt with PEX tubing. PEX is easy to get. It's easy to find fittings for in multiple configurations. You can get stainless steel crimp rings for it, so you don't have to worry about corrosion issues. You don't have to use the copper crimp rings. So it just made sense. We went about replacing the entire system with PEX. I'm doing my part in getting copper off of an aluminum boat.
It's a lot of copper.
Copper's not good. So I'm here working on the filtration system on the boat. I've already got all the PEX line in from before. I'll probably have to redo a bit of it, but PEX is easy. I'm using the plastic stuff, so that's that stuff right there. So you've got your stainless steel fittings and the plastic or stainless steel clamps in your plastic fittings. So nice bit about that is it doesn't corrode. The stainless steel lasts forever. The plastic doesn't corrode like the brass or the bronze that the other fittings have on them. So it should be a pretty good product for what I need. But anyway, I am currently plumbing in the filtration system here. That's these three big filters. I go sideways here. Three big filters and the big UV sterilizer there. This is all post Watermaker, so this is what's going to be coming out of the tank and pressurized in. So it'll just run down through here, and then I'll have to tie it into the pressure side of the pumps, which is that PEX line there. So I'm just working on getting that all sorted. I had to clip where I used to have the T going in for the pressure feed, which is now teed in over on the side over here after the UV filter. So I've just got to basically attach the pressure side up to the far side of the fittings up here, or the filters up here, and we'll be good to go. So my apologies for the darkness here. I'm just crammed in a hole up in the forepeak. This is the old captain's cabin, and I'll show you what I'm... So I've got, let's get some light on the subject here. Okay, so this is our pressure accumulator here, and I've got to get some fittings done for the water system to get the new filter system all connected. So I'm working on getting a couple of old hoses that used to be for the refrigerator systems out of here. So I've just, they're pretty tight. As you can see, I'm just kind of working them through the, there we go, cut on the other side, and then I've got a clear path to get my connections done. All of these were for the front air conditioning system here, which is no longer operational. It probably still works, but it's just not connected and not powered up. So might try to get that up and running at a later date, but it won't be here. Might move that aft, or maybe see if we can get it working up in the pilot house, just to give us a little bit of cool air in the pilot house when we get to the tropics. But for the time being, it's just out of service, and we're gonna see if we can't get some filtration happening. Once we got everything plumbed up for the Watermaker, it was time to do a test run on it, and one major issue became apparent right away. The way the control system works on this unit is it's just got a switch to turn it on and then a start button. The start button is just a momentary press, and it's got a latching relay inside the box that keeps everything running. The problem is we're running this off-grid, and we're running this off of our battery bank, off of inverters. And when you have a 3 horsepower motor driving your high pressure pump, that is a lot of inrush current. And unfortunately, with our inverters, that was enough inrush current where it would cause a brief brownout. I'm talking half a second brownout on the boat, which was enough to kick the Watermaker off again. So Watermaker wouldn't stay running. The second you push the button, it would just turn off again. So obviously not going to work. Not really a lot of things I could do with the original motor. I probably could have got away with some sort of a soft start unit, but even still, that's a big pump to deal with. So what we decided to do was swap that out for a new pump. The pump that we used is a 2 horsepower 3-phase pump. Now we don't have 3-phase power on board, but the beauty of the 3-phase pump is it allows me to use a variable frequency drive. And what that does is it allows me to take that single phase power coming in, put it into this electronic device, and it slowly ramps up the frequency to the motor so you don't get a big hit on power. It's just a small ramp up. So the inverters could keep up with it. That worked beautifully. I cannot even explain how happy I am with how that all turned out. It's years down the road, it's still functioning perfectly. We love it. Still working on the Watermaker, and I ended up getting a pretty good deal on a 2 horsepower electric motor on eBay. Disadvantage of this motor is it's got no mounting feet anywhere on it. So I'm gonna have to make some mounting feet. So I've got going here. I've just got a piece of aluminum here that I'm making up. That's gonna saddle the motor. That's gonna get welded onto a foot base here. So that's what'll go to my mounts. And then I'll just have a big heavy duty band clamp that'll go around the whole thing. And I'll probably put it pretty much dead center on the motor here, but fairly simple. Should work pretty well, and hopefully this pump works a little bit better than the other one that we have. I just borrowed the other one temporarily. It was over on our mill over here. So I've temporarily stolen it. Not many people use this mill currently anyway, so I was able to borrow it, but this will be the hopefully permanent motor that will go on to the Watermaker, and hopefully it does a little bit better. And Sean has once again come to my aid. I was busy here in the office, and he was nice enough to weld up my pump bracket for me. So he's got, that's my horseshoe for my new Watermaker pump. He's got it all ready to rock and roll. So now I just have to drill a couple of holes here for bolts and get a big band clamp to go around the whole thing, and we're good to go. Now, the original motor, the way that it was set up, the pump basically bolted directly to it. The pump had a shaft sticking out of it, and the motor was made with a socket rather than a shaft, so they just slid together, bolted up. Couldn't really find anything like that today, so I had to make an adapter. So it was about a piece of aluminum about yay long that went between the motor and the pump. And in there was a little Lovejoy coupler, which is 3 prongs that kind of go together, and it's got some rubber in there to isolate it so it doesn't rattle around. I had to build this thing. So took my big chunk of aluminum on one side, big chunk of aluminum on the other side, big hefty chunk of aluminum tubing in the middle, welded it all together, made my bolt holes, and then it was time to true it all up. So I chucked this up on the lathe and I started truing the faces. Well, I'm not a machinist. I can machine, and facing stuff is pretty easy, but I never went to school for this stuff. I don't have the background of having somebody taught me all the little safety things that I need to do with this, so I was doing this, became apparent unsafely, and what happened was the bit on the die on the lathe bit into the aluminum ring on one end, and it basically chucked this big, heavy chunk of aluminum directly at my face. Fortunately, it missed most of the important stuff and ended up catching me right in the forehead. Rung my bell pretty good. I was seeing stars for a little bit, managed to not get knocked out cold, but a hospital visit was in the works. So I was at the shop lathing up a piece and jumped out of the lathe on me and caught me right in the forehead. Yeah. So we're heading to the hospital and yet again and taking care of some stuff.
Here we go again. Off to the hospital. Yep. Off to pick up my husband. And they say living on a boat is easy. Okay, maybe easy. A little bit dangerous. Plain. where is he? Now I gotta find him. Oh, there he is. He said Emerge was busy. There he is. Hey, you.
Hi.
Got some new decoration on your head?
I do. You can't see it though. It's got a band-aid on it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Blaine just put this massive thing in my lap, and this is what hit him in the head. This thing is huge. Look at my hand. Blaine, this thing is huge. I think you dented it. Okay, let me look. Is there blood on it?
Well, quite possibly.
God, this thing is massive. But yes, this is what just took up Blaine's head and added 3 more stitches to his collection. Huh.
Hey.
Let's see this head wound.
Oh, it's not that bad. It's just
3
a little
stitches.
scratch.
You're lucky I didn't take it off the top of your head. 3 little stitches, not too shabby, honey.
No.
What do you think, Megs?
I'm back on the Watermaker again. I've had a problem where the flow was not quite good enough. I could get pressure on it. I get around 800 psi, but the flow was just way down under pressure. So I rebuilt a high pressure pump, which is this guy right down in here. So that's my high pressure pump. I wish I had gotten more video of it when I was rebuilding it, but basically it's a diaphragm style pump, but the diaphragms are backed with oil on one side, so you don't have to worry about the diaphragms rupturing with high pressure because the pressure is equal on both sides. Anyway, there's a bleeding procedure for these, and I did follow the procedure, but I think it might still have a little bit of air in it. It does work. It's just still not getting quite the flow that I want to have on it. So after I got it running, I found that there was some leaks around that inlet fitting there. So right now I've got that all apart, and I am working on resealing it all. So hopefully we'll have the Watermaker back up and running this afternoon sometime. And I've already had it running once today. We're making around 30 gallons an hour. I'd like to see closer to 40, but until I get the pump flow issue sorted, I'm just gonna have to wait because that's all it's going to do for now. So I'll keep you guys posted, but we're slowly pecking away here. I've gotten a few things done, but it's just such a big list.
So this is our water wall in our new old system. We've got the main on-off panel for the whole system. This is where I do all of my pressure adjustments and tell it what tank I'm feeding into. And this is the variable frequency drive that I was telling you guys about. So that's what makes sure we can run it on the inverters. Below that, I've got my UV sterilizer set up. So this is a tube in a tube here, and then there's a big bulb that feeds into the end of that. And that whole tube inside is exposed to UV light. Then I've got my 3 filters, my 25, 5, and charcoal canister. And then below that down here, I've got my 2 membrane housings for my Watermaker. This guy is a mineral filter, and what it does is whatever minerals the Watermaker pulls out of the water, it re-adds back into the system. So you have water that's got minerals in it, which is a lot better for the body. At the end of the day, after new membrane housings, new membranes, rebuilt high pressure pump, new high pressure motor, variable frequency drive, I think that's about it. We're doing pretty well. Everything's working great. We're making about 840 gallons a day, being we went down from the 3 horsepower pump to the 2 horsepower pump. And yeah, we've been super happy with the system. Now my mind's always looking for new things to do, and these are going to be my next target. There's some minor leaks in here, nothing major, but just a little bit. This is a very old setup here. We're missing a couple of the little segments in the digital display, so it could use a little bit of modernization, and I think that'll probably be what I tackle on the Watermaker next anyway.
We've just discovered something.
Not just discovered, but you can tell the difference between when we make water and when we get water at the dock. The onboard Watermaker water tastes a lot better than the dock water. Don't know what it is, but yeah.
We prefer our desalinated water that we make with our Watermaker. It just tastes so much better.
Which is funny, because used to be I wasn't a big fan of desal water, so I don't know if they've just made advancements and...
Maybe it's just your Watermaker is friggin' amazing.
It's probably between the Watermaker and the mineral filter and the rest of the filters, it just
Tastes damn good.
tastes damn good.
We managed to rebuild the Watermaker, but how about the railings on Tangaroa? Were we able to bring those back to life? Check out We Rebuilt all the railings on our 78-foot yacht to see how they turned out.